Passage 2 is where the IELTS reading test starts to get a bit more challenging. The vocabulary is more difficult and the questions often require more time to complete. In this second video in this 3-part series, I'm going to go through a full Passage 2 with you step by step. We're going to look at strategies to answer the questions as quickly as possible, especially matching headings questions, which a lot of students find difficult, but they're actually quite easy. Now, before we get started, if you're preparing for IELTS, make sure you check out our preparation course in the description below, because it's going to teach you everything you need to know to get a band 7 or higher in every single part. All right, let's have a look at our reading passage 2. All right, so here is our reading passage 2. As you can see, it's called The Terracotta Army of Qin Shi Huang. Now, I hope I said that correctly. I can't say I'm fluent in Chinese. Now, when you get your passage 2, the first thing you can do is skim the passage if you like. If you do so, you shouldn't take very long. You should do it within about 30 seconds because you don't have much time. Now, for the purposes of this video, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go straight down to the questions. So here they are, questions 14 to 20. Reading passage 2 has 7 paragraphs, A to G. Choose the correct heading for each paragraph from the list of headings below. Write the correct number, 1 to 10, in boxes 14 to 20 on your answer sheet. Now this here is very important because it's telling you what to do and what not to do. You need to write a number as your answer. You don't need to write the full name of the heading. So always be careful of that. Now, as you can see, here are the headings. We've got 9 different headings to choose from. And then down here are the questions. We have 7 different questions and 7 different paragraphs. So let's start with the first question, which is question 14. It's about paragraph A. So when you're doing matching headings questions, you can start by reading the paragraph itself, think about the main ideas, and then give a title or a name or a heading to that paragraph. So let me show you what I mean. Let's look at paragraph A. The Terracotta Army is one of the most remarkable discoveries in Chinese history. So it's saying that this Terracotta Army is amazing. It's great. It's very important. These life-sized figures, created to guard, they have become deeply connected with the country's cultural identity, even though similar burial customs existed, While much has been written about the army's purpose, it remains one of the most fascinating achievements of the ancient world. Its creation marked a major moment in Chinese history, and it all began with the vision of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. So this bit here, it looks quite small, but it could be important. So if you have a look at this paragraph, the main idea is that this Terracotta Army is amazing. It's very important. And it all started with a thought from the Emperor Qin Shi Huang. So if I was going to give a title, I'd call it something like this: An amazing thing from a vision. So now we know the main ideas and we've made a heading ourselves. We can go down to the headings that were provided. So here they are. So what we need to do is just quickly go through them one by one and think about which is the best choice for paragraph A. So a different approach to royal tombs. No, doesn't really say that. A sudden change in leadership. No. The incredible result of one man's idea. Well, that looks very close to what we talked about, so we'll quickly circle that. Now, let's keep going. A large tomb with many security features. Well, no, it doesn't really talk about security. A great experience despite what was left. No. Unusual objects found near the burial site. No. A design style that influenced future rulers. No. Disagreements and architects, no, nothing about that. And problems faced during the project, well, no, there's nothing about that. So I think we can safely say that the answer for question 14 is 3. So when you have chosen a heading, you can then cross that heading off, and it's going to make it easier for you when you do the next headings because you have less to choose from. So now let's go to the next question, which is 15, and that's about paragraph B. So let's go back up and think about what the main ideas are for this paragraph. So Qin Shi Huang, first emperor. Okay, so maybe it could be more about the emperor this time. Before his reign, the rulers were buried in smaller, simpler tombs. After taking power, Qin Shi Huang ordered the creation that would reflect his status and authority. His most trusted officials are believed to have overseen the planning and construction. Instead of using traditional burial items, the emperor ordered a vast army of life-sized clay figures to be placed underground, arranged as if ready for battle. Though historians cannot say with certainty why the idea was chosen, many believe it was meant to ensure protection. So this could be important. Historians cannot say why this idea was chosen. So when I look at this paragraph, what I think about is it's talking about Qin Shi Huang, so it's talking about the emperor. So I'm going to start with that. So the emperor. And then it talks about that he did things differently, because look what it says. Instead of using, the emperor ordered. So it's talking about what rulers or emperors normally did, and then it's saying what Qin Shi Huang did. So I'm going to call this paragraph the emperor who did things differently. That's going to be my heading. So now I've got an idea of what this paragraph is about. Let's go back down and let's have a look at the headings, and we can choose the most appropriate one. So the first one, a different approach to royal tombs. Well, that looks good already. A sudden change in leadership? No, nothing about that. A large tomb with security features? No, nothing about security. A great experience despite what was left? No. Unusual objects found near the burial site? No, doesn't talk about that. A design style that influenced future rulers? No. Disagreements, architects? No. And problems faced during the project? No. So I'm happy to say that 15 will definitely be 1, a different approach to royal tombs. So again, we can cross that one out. So now we have less headings to choose from when it comes to the next question. So let's move on and have a look at 16 now, which is about paragraph C. So let's go back up to the paragraphs and see if we can find what paragraph C is about. So the Terracotta Army has been studied for decades. That could be important. Its construction involved a long and demanding process. So this paragraph could be about maybe the problems with construction or the challenges that were faced. Experts believe that the work progressed in phases. Okay, according to historian, the layout of the site shows signs of careful planning. That could be important. Trial and error. Thousands of warriors were made in separate parts. That's quite important. Separate parts and then assembled. Detailed on site. The sheer size, so that means the very big size of the army, presented a lot of challenges, including how to, and then there are some examples. So support the weight, how to organize the production of so many unique figures. So for this one, when I'm thinking about the title or the main ideas, I would think it's something like this: a long, difficult process. Because that's what it's talking about in very simple terms. It's saying that it was a long process and there were challenges or problems that needed to be solved. So let's go back down now to the headings themselves and let's have a look. So number 2, a sudden change in leadership. Well, no, there's nothing about that. A large tomb with many security features. No. A great experience. No. Unusual objects? No. A design style that influenced future rulers? No, nothing about future rulers. Disagreements, architects? No. Here we go. Problems faced during the project. That looks very close to what we said. So we can go down and put number 9 for question 16. And again, let's cross off number 9 here. So we've got less to look at when it comes to the next questions. Now, please note that sometimes your heading or your summary is not going to be exactly the same as the headings that are provided. So if that happens, you may need to go back to the paragraph again and have a look at the main ideas one more time. So now let's go on to the next question, which is question number 17, and that's paragraph D. So let's see what we can find about the main ideas there. Here it is. So when fully constructed, the Terracotta Army had a vast area, so a very big area. It was the size of a small city, so it's saying it's very, very big. The main sections included horses. The site stretches over 20 square kilometers. So again, it's focusing on the size again. And researchers are still investigating whether it connects. The pits were carefully arranged. Okay, so maybe this could be about the features. Narrow passageways between sections acted as barriers, okay, to slow down intruders. So maybe this is about security. Guards would have been stationed above the tomb. There were traps. Maybe hidden defenses were installed to protect the emperor's remains. Qin Shi Huang was so determined to secure his legacy that he insisted of keeping the full design a closely guarded secret. So there are some different ideas in there, but when I think about giving this one a title, what I think of is it's talking about how big the Terracotta Army complex is, and it's also talking about security. So if I was going to give this a title, I'd say something like this: a huge place with lots of protection. Okay, that's the main idea of this paragraph. So let's go back down now and see if there's anything like that in the list of headings. So again, let's quickly go through them one by one. Change in leadership. No, nothing about that. A large tomb. Oh, there we go. A large tomb with many security features. That could be it. A great experience. Well, no, nothing about that. Unusual objects. No. A design style. Future rulers. No. Disagreements. No. So we can safely say that the answer for number 17 is definitely 4. So we can remove number 4 and then move on to the next one. Now, the next one is question 18, and that's talking about paragraph E. So let's go back up and let's see if we can find the main ideas. So the central tomb has never been fully excavated, okay? But ground scanning has revealed a vast chamber, okay? Believed to contain the emperor's remains, okay? There are dozens of passageways, some thought to be filled with treasures, weapons, and valuable items. One of the most intriguing finds, okay, this could be important. One of the most intriguing finds in the surrounding pits has been a collection of bronze birds and acrobats. Okay, that's interesting. Discovered in what appears to be a garden or entertainment space. These items are unusually detailed, okay, far more artistic. So this is sort of saying that these items might be a bit different or strange. So let's keep reading. Their exact function remains unclear. Some archaeologists believe they were included to reflect the emperor's desire, Others suggest... Okay, so maybe it's saying that there's some confusion about why these items were there. Others suggest they may have a symbolic meaning, okay, protect the emperor's soul, Without access to the central tomb, these questions remain open. So for this one, it sort of has two main ideas. The first one is it's saying that there is a lot of equipment. There are a lot of things, or there were a lot of things. And it's also talking about the function of these things or why they were there is not clear to people. So this one could have two headings, I guess, but I'm just going to go with something simple, which is lots of equipment or lots of things. So let's write that in, things. But I'm going to keep in the back of my mind that it also could have another heading, because like I told you before, or we just looked at before, it talks about this. Their function remains unclear. Some people think this, other people think that. So I'm just going to keep that in my mind. So let's go back. And once again, same process. Change in leadership? No. Great experience despite what was left? No, doesn't talk about an experience. Unusual objects found near the burial site? Okay, that could be it. A design style that influenced future rulers? No. Disagreements between architects? No. Now, it does talk a little bit about the archaeologists were not in agreement, but it's not talking about architects. So just be careful there. So I think for this one, the best and most appropriate heading would have to be number 6, which is unusual objects found near the burial site. So we can cross that one off. And then let's move on to the next one now, which is question number 19, paragraph F. So let's go back up and have a look. This is a nice short paragraph, so hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Despite the size of the mausoleum and the efforts to protect it, the site did not escape damage. Okay, that could be important. After his death, parts of the complex were looted and set on fire. The emperor's body has never been found, and the original treasures are believed to be lost. Still, what remained throughout the site was enough to amaze the archaeologists who later excavated the area. So for this one, it could be something about damage, and it also could be something about this. Okay, yes, all of these bad things happened. So the parts of the complex were looted and set on fire. There was some damage, but it said the site was enough to amaze archaeologists. So it could be something like damage, but also a good experience or a good thing. So let's go back down, and I believe I remember something about that. A sudden change in leadership? No. A great experience despite what was left? Well, that looks quite good. A design style that influenced future rulers? No. Disagreements between architects? No. So the answer for that one will definitely be 5. So 19 is 5. So we can cross that off. And another thing to mention is that when you look at all of these headings here, a lot of different times, sometimes you will remember them. And because you remember them, you might actually know what the answer is when you're looking at the paragraph. So when I was looking at this paragraph and I saw this amaze the archaeologists, I actually thought about this one here. A great experience despite what was left. And that's one reason why you should go through every heading every time you're looking at a question, because it's going to put those headings into your head and you might actually know the answer while you're looking at the paragraph. Now we've got one more left, which is question number 20, paragraph G. So let's go back up here. It's quite a short one. Historian Duan Qingbo writes, the Terracotta Army stands as one of the most extraordinary achievements of the ancient world. It reflects not only the power of the first emperor, but also the skill and organization of China. The site marked a new standard that could be important. Its design sets an example that some rulers would follow in the centuries to come. Does this sound important? Well, it sounds important to me because if you remember, that's what one of the headings was talking about. But before we have a look, let's give this paragraph a name. So I would say something like a new type. Okay, a new type of tomb or burial site, which, and then I'm just going to copy the words from down here, set an example. Okay, if you're giving or creating your own heading. Of course, you can copy the words from the passage. It doesn't matter. What's important is that you get a general idea of the meaning of that paragraph. So let's go back down now and have a look. So a sudden change in leadership. No. A design style that influenced future rulers. Yes, most likely. Disagreements between architects. No. So we can go down there and write number 7. And we don't have to, but we can cross this off anyway. So I hope that was helpful and it showed you exactly how to do matching headings questions. As you can see, they're not that difficult if you have a strategy. So let's go down now to the next set of questions. Here they are, questions 21 to 24. Complete the notes below. Choose one word only from the passage for each answer. Write your answers in boxes 21 to 24 on your answer sheet. So 2 important things there are one word only. Okay, one word only. So if you choose something like red cat, well, obviously that's going to be wrong because that's 2 words. So always be careful to read the instructions. And it also says from the passage. So that means, let's pretend you're reading the passage and you think deaf is the correct word. Well, you don't need to change that to die or died. Okay, you just use that same word, death. So let's go back down and have a look at the questions themselves. So as you can see, there is a heading, and it's very important to read the heading for notes because it's going to help you find where the answers are. And this heading here is the Terracotta Army Complex. And I actually remember they were talking about the complex in, I believe, one of the first paragraphs, paragraph 2 or 3. So let's have a look here. The entire complex was as big as A. So when you're doing these questions, you need to, well, you don't need to, but you should try to predict the answers. So you can see here that we've got a. After a, we would have a singular noun. So we can just write that down there so we remember singular noun. So that's what we're looking for. The next one, experts are trying to find out if there are more something beneath the surface. So for this one here, it's probably a noun as well. And if you're not sure, try to put a specific type of word in there and see if it fits. So let's pretend we put the word eat in there. That's a verb, but if we read that, it doesn't make sense. If there are more eat, well, that doesn't make sense. But if we put a noun in there, maybe something like cats, there are more cats beneath the surface, well, that makes sense. So we know that the answer for this one is a noun, and it's probably a plural noun. So let's move on now to question 23. How small the passages were probably made it harder for something to get inside. Well, after 4, we would probably have a noun. Let's go to 24 now. It says the something was not made known. So after the, we normally have a noun as well. So it looks like with all of these questions, we're looking for a noun. So now let's go and find the actual answers. So to find the answers, you need to know what you're looking for, obviously. So let's start with the first one. The complex was as big as A. Okay, so that's pretty simple. We're looking for the army complex, and we're looking for as big as A. And remember, we're looking for a noun as well. So let's have a look. Here we go. It's right here, Terracotta Army Complex. So let's read it together. Now, I was actually wrong. I thought it was in paragraph B or C, but that's okay. We found where it is. And it was the size of a small city. Okay, there we go. There's the answer. Okay, the size of a small city, or as big as a city. Now remember, we just need one word and we need a noun. So the correct answer there would be, sorry, let me write that again a bit neater. The correct answer would be city. Now, we couldn't say small city because look here, it says one word only, okay? One word only. Let's keep reading. Let's look at the next question. In the pits, okay, that's important. There were soldiers, other figures and weapons, okay? Experts are trying to find out if there are more something beneath the surface. Okay, so we're looking for, experts, they're looking for something. Is there something more beneath the surface? So let's go back up and go back to paragraph D. So the last answer was here, city. Let's keep going. The site stretches over. Our researchers, that has a similar meaning, are still investigating whether it connects to a larger underground. Okay, that's beneath the surface. Network of tunnels. There we go. That looks good. Tunnels is a noun. So let's have a look if it fits. So experts are trying to find out if there are more tunnels. Let's put that in. Beneath the surface. It looks good, and make sure you've got that S, okay? If you just put tunnel, that would be incorrect and you would not get that mark, okay? So always remember, put your S in if needed. All right, let's keep going and let's continue with the next question. How small the passages were probably made it harder or maybe difficult or challenging for something to get inside. So for this one, we're looking for a noun that's trying to get inside. So let's see if we can find that. Let's go back up to paragraph D. Okay, the pits were arranged. Okay, narrow passageways between sections acted as barriers. Okay, it says slow down. So that could be what we are looking for. And then it says intruders, okay, who were trying to enter. So it looks like intruders might be the correct answer, but let's just double check. Let's go down. Yes, we found the passages, made it harder for intruders to get inside. And again, you need to have that S. Now, just let me double check. Always double check if you have time. Yeah, who were trying to enter. Okay, so that has a very similar meaning as to get inside. All right, let's move on and go to the next one. To protect the secrecy of the burial place, the something, so noun, was not made known to all. Okay, that's an important word, all of the workers. So let's go back up and see if we can find that. So guards would have been stationed, okay, and many believe that traps, no. Protect the emperor's remains, no. Qin Shi Huang was so determined to secure his legacy that he insisted on keeping the full design, maybe that could be it, of the mausoleum a secret. Okay, even from many of those working on it. There we go. So we're looking for a noun, and it looks like design might be the noun that we're looking for. If you just have a look at the other words, mausoleum, I don't think that makes sense. Secret, no, because it talked about that, I believe. Let me just have a look. Yeah, to protect the secrecy, the design was not made known to all of the workers. Now, you might be thinking, well, why isn't mausoleum the answer? Well, that wouldn't make sense, okay? So the answer there is design. So they were the note completion questions. I think they're pretty simple if you just follow the strategy. So now let's move on to the last set of questions here. Questions, let me change to yellow, 25 to 26. Choose two letters, A to E. Okay, let me circle that one more time. 2 letters. Write the correct letters in boxes 25 and 26 on your answer sheet. Which 2 of the following points does the writer make about Emperor Qin Shi Huang? Okay, 3 important things. 2, okay, you've got to talk about or choose 2 points. Writer, okay, it's about what the writer the points that the writer makes. And it's about the emperor, okay, Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Now, if I remember correctly, the paragraph about the emperor was paragraph B, so we can start off by looking there. So you can read these first if you want, but I think it's better to go and read the paragraph first and then think about what the paragraph is actually saying. So that's what we'll do. So let's have a look. Where was it? Here we go. Just as I thought. Okay, B was about the emperor. So let's have a look at what it actually says about the emperor. So it says that he was the first emperor, okay? Before his reign, rulers were buried in smaller, simpler tombs that followed local traditions. So this could be important. After taking power, Qin Shi Huang ordered the creation. That could be important as well, because it was actually him who ordered the creation of a permanent resting place that would reflect his status and authority. His most trusted officials, that could be important. His officials are believed to have overseen the planning and construction. That just means they managed the planning and construction. Instead of using traditional burial items, the emperor ordered a vast army of life-sized clay figures. So that's sort of saying that he didn't follow what other emperors were doing or other rulers were doing, because it said instead of using traditional to be placed underground, arranged as if ready for battle. Though historians cannot say with certainty, that could be important. Historians can't say with certainty, they're not 100% sure about why this idea was chosen. Many believe it was meant to ensure protection and power in the afterlife. So we've got some basic ideas about the emperor now. So let's go back and see if we can find the 2 correct points. And when we're doing this, we can simply use the process of elimination. So we can look at the 2 points here, and we can choose which ones are correct and which ones are not correct. So the first one says he didn't follow the usual traditions. Well, I think that's exactly what the passage said, because it said instead of using traditional burial items, he ... So I think that A is definitely the answer, or one of the answers. His decision to include warriors in his tomb was influenced by his officials. Well, it does talk about his officials, but it doesn't talk about including warriors being influenced by his officials. It just said that they were or had some role in the planning and construction. It doesn't specifically say include warriors. Okay, so just be careful. So B is not the answer. Let's move on to C now. Actually, let me change the color. Historians aren't completely sure why he made the terracotta army. Well, if you remember, that's exactly what it said. It said historians are not completely sure. Okay, so we can circle that one. C looks good. Now, even though we have found the 2 correct answers, just quickly check the other ones just in case, especially if you have time. So let's look at the next one, which talks about his tomb. His tomb was designed by immediate family members. Well, no, it doesn't say anything about immediate family members in that paragraph. And let's move on to the last one now, which is E. He criticized the design and construction of previous tombs. Well, it doesn't say that. Oh, sorry, I'll cross out D. It doesn't say that. It does talk about previous tombs, but it doesn't say anything about he criticized, so we can cross out E. So that was passage 2. If you haven't seen the lesson for passage 1, you can check that out right here. And when it's ready, passage 3 will be right here. Thanks for watching. Take care and all the best with your studies.